Oh no, Steve, we'll still be talking gun stuff today. It's just that Kemp has decided that the gun conversation needs to get dramatically enhanced. So let's start. Okay, I got Jamie in the chat. I got Steve in the chat. Good morning. I sent an email to Debbie Dooley just a little bit ago. I'm hoping she'll pop in with us, but we'll see. It's early, and I just kind of thought about her at the last minute because she sent me an email. Cameron, do you know who Debbie Dooley is? Do you know that name?
Vaguely.
She's one of the original founders of the Georgia Tea Party. I ran into her the other night at a GOP meeting here in Rockdale County, and it was funny. Mario was in town. He and I went. Yeah, I'm the kind of friend you go to visit from out of state, and I take you to the GOP meeting. Only because I was supposed to be running a camera there. We met her there, hung out, chit-chatted with her for a while afterward. Then as Mario and I were leaving, the meeting is at the Amici restaurant in Conyers. As Mario and I are leaving, I look in the window and she's sitting at the table eating dinner with my mom and dad. So I went in and clapped Dad on the shoulder. What are you doing with these troublemakers? But yeah, she and I have been talking about a couple of things recently, so things are getting interesting for the BFM over here, ladies and gentlemen. Now, today, it is Firearms Friday, and the thing that we like to do on Firearms Friday is we like to celebrate lawful, armed citizens in the lawful use of their weapons for self-defense. Now, there's a reason we do that. There's a lot of reasons we do that. One, that Second Amendment right, guys, the Constitution does not guarantee you the right to keep and bear arms. The Constitution acknowledges that you were born with that right from the moment you came screaming into this world, and that the government is forbidden to place anything near that right. Shall not be infringed, nothing close to it. No law which restricts you from keeping and bearing an arm is constitutional. Every law which mentions firearms in this country, which mentions any weapon, and your ability to own it or carry it or use it, any law in that vein is a crime. Be very clear on this. Every person who has ever signed on to a law that mentions your right to keep and bear arms is a criminal in violation of the Constitution, and should be prosecuted as such. And I would like to add to that list today Governor Kemp and the entire Georgia House of Representatives. Because the law that we're going to talk about today had 173 yes votes, 7 votes which were other, and 0 no's. Not one of your Georgia representatives stood up against the Georgia House, repealing citizens' arrest. This is scary. Citizens' arrest is not a right or an authority that is granted to you by the law. Citizens' arrest is a common law, an English common law tradition, which assumes sovereign authority of individual citizens to effect the arrest of criminals and dissidents. Not dissidents, that's the wrong word. Disturbers of the peace. And I do mean disturbers of the peace. The language of the law was pretty clear previously that, one of the main intents of citizens' arrest is to interfere with someone who is causing a disturbance of the peace, assuming if it can be assumed reasonably that disturbance is going to is going to continue without interference. And in no uncertain terms, the law that we're talking about, House Bill 749, it is 749, right? Yeah, 749. It takes the Georgia Official Code, Title 17, Section 4, Article 4, Chapter 4, which governs the citizen's arrest. It takes that law, and let me pull that up. I'm going to read that law to you here. Georgia Code, Title 17, Chapter 4, Article 4. A private person who makes an arrest pursuant to Code Section 17460 shall, without any unnecessary delay, take the person arrested before a judicial officer as provided in Code Section 17462, or deliver the person and all effects removed from him to a peace officer of his state. And the rest of that section is about the immunity for the peace officer if, after he takes custody of the detained individual, that a false arrest or false imprisonment arises from the prosecution of that arrested citizen, then the peace officer is not, as long as he took him in good faith, is not liable for those charges. So if a cop arrests you and part of your acquittal, part of the charges being thrown out when it's found that he did not arrest you on good grounds, in some of those cases, you can file against the officer for false arrest, false imprisonment. Now, the same thing applied in the case of a citizen's arrest. If you conducted a citizen's arrest and you were not justified, the law wasn't on your side, you were wrong to conduct the citizen's arrest, then the guy you arrested, the guy that you held until the police arrived to take him into custody, well, he's got a case. He's got an actionable case against you for false arrest, false imprisonment. You probably go ahead and whine for some emotional damages and this, that, and the other thing as well. But until now, wow, and we've already gotten there. Cameron, can you see the chat?
Oh, I can glance at it real quick. Okay, all right.
Jamie, that was a big part of the contentious conversation that Cameron and I were having earlier. Jamie asks, so does that mean if someone breaks into my house, I must shoot them instead of holding them at gunpoint? Yes, okay. It does, and we're gonna dig into that a little more. Hang on, Cameron, before we dig into that anymore. Having read this to you, this is Section 4. I want to show you guys this. Okay, this is House Bill 479. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 17 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated, relating to criminal procedure, so as to revise certain arrest powers, to provide for arrest by law enforcement officers outside of the jurisdiction of his or her employing a law enforcement agency under certain circumstances, to revise the grounds for arrest by a private citizen, and to repeal in its entirety Article 4 of Chapter 4 relating to arrest by private persons. To repeal in its entirety. And then as this goes on, it gives a list of the sorts of private persons who are still allowed to use a citizen's arrest. That list includes and is limited to, right? That's an important part of this language. That list includes and is limited to, not but is not limited to. That list includes and is limited to food service establishment, law enforcement unit, the owner of a retail establishment. So a private person may detain an individual if such private person is 1. An owner of a retail establishment who has reasonable grounds to believe that the individual sought to be detained has committed or attempted to commit the offense of theft by shoplifting as set forth in Code Section 16814, refund fraud as set forth in 16814.1, or theft by unlawful use of retail sales receipts or universal product code labels. An owner of a food service establishment, grounds to believe sought to be detained, has committed or attempted to commit theft by taking. An owner of any business entity operating on their property or on the property of others on which they are doing business with reasonable grounds to believe that the individual sought to be detained has committed or attempted to commit theft by taking. A weight inspector under Article 5. So it also amends the rules on the weight inspector. Now, weigh stations have to have a supervisor who is also a licensed peace officer. A licensee or registrant under Chapter 38 of Title 43. That's private detectives, private investigators, stuff like that. And then this last one, and this one describes the circumstances around that person being allowed to conduct a citizen's arrest. So a couple of things here. One, nowhere in here does it say anything about a homeowner whose home is being invaded, robbed, etc. Now, this law does not repeal your right to self-defense. So what you have is, you're exactly right, Jamie. If someone breaks into your house, you have to shoot them or let them run away. You cannot hold them and call the police to have them apprehended.
Quote the dude, that's like your opinion, man.
No, it's not. It's in black and white. It's right here. That's the law as written.
Okay, so
that's not my opinion.
No, it is in fact your opinion. It's your interpretation of the law. They spelled out so many exceptions for retail establishments and weight officers. So basically they said, all right. We're going to completely undo the citizen's arrest. But if you're a business owner or you're a private detective and over the course of your business you need to defend yourself or defend your property and you perform a citizen's arrest, in service of that, you can still do it. The reason why they didn't include language about homeowners is we're already a stand your ground state. You're allowed to use any and all means to defend yourself in the state of Georgia. And most southern states are pretty clear on this. If it's your home or your car, you could do whatever you want in order to secure those things. So it just seems bizarre to me that the leap that you're making is they said, okay, we're going to carve out all these exemptions, but we're just going to sort of accidentally forget homeowners.
I'm not making that leap. I'm showing it on the screen right now in black and white. That is the law. I'm not making an assumption here, Cameron. I'm not even applying complex legal analysis to this. That's the law.
So, but how does that compare to stand your ground? So you're saying that this is
stand your ground says you don't have to. Stand your ground says you don't have to retreat. So if somebody breaks into your house and you defend yourself by killing them with your firearm, you're good to go. You cannot, however, hold them at gunpoint until the police arrive.
So what you're saying is that all of these congressmen and senators and the governor and everybody else, they missed it, or they deliberately excluded homeowners. So that, I mean, I understand what you're saying and the fact that you're saying, oh, I have this here in black and white, but we're looking at one teeny tiny thing, and I'm sorry, man, I'm just not. I don't believe that what is going to happen is that if somebody breaks into my house and I get the drop on them and I call the cops and don't kill them, I instead hold them there until the cops get there, I don't think that I'm going to be arrested for false arrest. I mean, the person is inside my home. They're already committing a felony.
Jamie says his comment was just flagged. You know what? I was going to save this for somebody funny, but Jamie, if that comment got flagged, I have to be on the other view. Jamie wins the watch list today,
which is what we now refer to our chat.
And yes, henceforth the chat is referred to as the watch list. You are all on the watch list. If you're not on at least 3 watch lists by now, you're not even really an American anymore.
Yeah, are you doing it right if you're not on the watch list?
You're not trying. So, now, Cameron, your contention might be an interesting one, and one worth arguing if it were not for line 167 under Section 9 of HB 479. All laws and parts of laws in conflict with this act are repealed.
Okay, again.
So if there is a law that supports your argument, it is no longer law in Georgia. It has been repealed by this act.
Okay, so the entire Georgia legislature got together and made it completely okay to arrest somebody for using the threat of lethal force to defend his home.
Correct.
Sorry, I'm not, man. I'm sorry. I'm not there. I'm not there. Like they carved out all these exceptions, which means they either somehow forgot about homeowners or they deliberately excluded them. And both of those are a pretty big leap in logic.
No, they're not. Not at all. You have to remember which government you're talking about. Let's go back to where all this started. Let me pull up the article. Let me get back to the Fox News article. And I'm using the Fox News article on this to once again highlight for my conservative friends out there. Fox News is not your friend. It's not
your friend. Oh, wow. We just said that at the same time and everything.
Jinx.
You owe me a Coke.
So, let's just go through this article. Governor Brian Kemp repealed a Civil War-era state citizens arrest law this week, signing new legislation more than a year after the death of Ahmaud Arbery, a 25-year-old black man pursued by white men who suspected him of a crime in their neighborhood. Kemp, a Republican, signed on Monday House Bill 479, which, in part, revises the grounds for an arrest by a private person by ending the right for bystanders to make an arrest in Georgia if a crime is committed in their presence or with their immediate knowledge. Okay. Let me smarten you up real quick on citizen's arrest. This is from the legal dictionary, and this is in reference to citizen's arrest as a general statute as it's handed down through English common law. A citizen's arrest occurs when a person not acting as a sworn in law enforcement official arrests another person. U.S. law allows ordinary individuals to detain another individual until law enforcement officers arrive in certain circumstances. In this manner, a citizen's arrest may be made detaining a person suspected of committing a crime or by directing police to arrest him if they are present. Detaining an individual in a manner that violates the laws governing citizen's arrest may result in the individual doing the detaining being charged with a crime or being held civilly liable. To explore this concept, consider the following citizen's arrest definition. So, we're going to go down to an example. For example, while walking home from work, Brent takes a shortcut through an alley. While in the alley, he witnesses another man strike a woman across the face with an object, knocking her to the ground. When Brent yells at him in an attempt to stop the man from further hurting the woman, the man attempts to run away. Brent catches up to the man and physically detains him, asking a passerby to call 911. When the police arrive, they take the offender into custody and charge him with assault and battery. So let me show you, I'm going to show you a quick little clip of video from my man, Officer Tatum, the Officer Tatum. And frankly, I'm sharing it this way because Tatum's already pulled up the clip I was looking for, and the clip was unsurprisingly difficult to find. We're just going to watch a little bit of this, but I want you to see what happens here.
So, in Atlanta, Georgia, we have a case of a citizen's arrest.
Now, this happened in May. This video is from May 15th. This happened a few days before. So this happened in May. This happened at the same time that the whole Ahmaud Arbery controversy was going on. So
this time, it's a black man arresting a white man at gunpoint.
And that's why you didn't hear about it. The narrative that you need to choke down for the MSM cannot include that there are good black men. All your martyrs are monsters.
Well, okay, so you obviously this is
hang on, Cameron.
That's simple. Oh, sorry.
Now somebody explain.
So, what happened? This white guy ran up on the black guy as the black guy was trying to get in his car and tried to rob him, tried to carjack him, and the brother pulled his pistol, said, "Get on the ground." And he hollered at somebody to call 911, and he stood there and held this man on the ground at gunpoint. There were no charges filed. Steve says the dude in the video did everything right. Exactly. A bad guy attacked him, tried to rob him, tried to steal his car. This was in Atlanta, Georgia. Okay, this is explicitly relevant case, an explicitly relevant case to the precedents that are being set here. And in this case, the black man held the white man at gunpoint until the police arrived. And that's right. That's exactly what should happen. Because your alternative, you have two alternatives. Either you, the lawful citizen, suffers loss at the hands of the criminal who seeks to cause you harm, or die at the hands of the criminal who seeks to cause you harm, or you have to kill the criminal. Right? Those are your two options without the citizen's arrest mediation.
Look,
or
man,
at least you have to you have to shoot, you have to harm the criminal.
Well, hold on. The context here is important. I mean, I completely agree. Yes, what happened there is 100% legitimate. Somebody tried to steal the car. Brother held him down on the ground. Cops came. Bad guy went to jail. That's a good day. All right, no doubt about it. And I'm telling you that if that exact same thing were to happen now, that black guy would not get arrested for false arrest. It's understood in our state that you have the right to defense. That the reason why all those other exceptions were carved out is because, I mean, let's remember, they're trying to address what happened with Ahmaud Arbery. The McManus brothers were not defending their own, I'm sorry, the father and son. They were not defending their own property. They were not defending a business. They were not defending an official action. They were defending a neighbor's property, and they pursued Ahmaud Arbery in order to effect the citizen's arrest. Well, I think this is shit
yes,
law.
And Cameron,
well, hold on. I think it's shit law, and I think it's being done for shit reasons. But, like, seriously, our legislature just said, haha, you're now no longer allowed to defend your car or your home with your firearm unless you actually shoot somebody. I mean, come on, man. Like, really? So
yes.
So what? Okay, so they did it on purpose or on accident?
I doubt it was done on purpose. But stick with me, because what you just described, the McMichael's case, right? It was somebody else's property. They pursued the criminal, right?
Right.
With immediate knowledge of the crime. The example that I just read, while walking home from work, Brent takes a shortcut through an alley. He witnesses another man strike a woman across the face. He was not personally attacked. Brent was not the victim here. He witnessed another man strike a woman across the face, knocking her to the ground. When Brent yells at him in an attempt to stop the man from further hurting the woman, the man attempts to run away. Brent catches up to the man and physically detains him, asking a passerby to call 911. When the police arrive, they take the offender into custody and charge him with assault and battery. This is a case that's very similar to the McMichael case. The citizen witnessed the crime, attempted to intercede. The criminal attempted to flee. The citizen chased and detained the criminal, contacted the police, and the criminal was arrested. This is as it is described in Article 4, Chapter 4, and that is the thing which they have explicitly repealed. So yes, Cameron, what they've done is exactly the thing that you're saying, that there's just no way they would do that.
I'm saying if they did it, it's far more likely that they did it on purpose. I'm sorry, man. I can't wrap.
Well, yeah, I'm not arguing that. I'm saying absolutely they did it on purpose. The intent here is to usurp the authority of citizens.
Voted out.
The intent here is to usurp the authority of citizens. The 10th Amendment says that anything not guaranteed to the federal government or prohibited by the states thereto is retained any power to the states or to the citizens. Our English common law tradition on citizens' arrest is a power of the citizens, an authority of the citizens. What this law is Governor Kemp and your Georgia House of Representatives have decided that they don't care about the United States Constitution, its 10th Amendment, or the rights of citizens, or their sovereign authority as U.S. citizens. They've decided that it is perfectly okay and within the bounds of the Constitution for them to usurp rights which are retained to you by the Constitution. That is what they have done.
I'm not disagreeing with that at all. What I am saying is that our castle doctrine laws are already so strong that, I mean, I get it. It repeals everything that would contradict the law. I've heard you say it multiple times now. But I'm also saying that I try and picture how things work when they actually happen. I try and imagine how the sausage is made. And you're telling me 100 and something representatives and their staffs and their advisors and the governor and the lieutenant governor and their staffs and their advisor. You're talking about hundreds of people. At least a small handful of them are as smart as we are. And none of them noticed we're going to open up homeowners to liability and we're accidentally going to neuter our own castle doctrine. And I'm sorry.
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that they did that on purpose. I'm saying that they neutered your castle doctrine on purpose.
Yeah, and even that is extremely difficult to believe. It just... They all want to get reelected, right? So
apparently not.
But that's the point but that's what I'm saying, Chris. I'm saying it is so patently obvious that if this was going to cause the kind of problem you're suggesting that it's going to cause, people would already be screaming their head off about it, and something would have been amended, some language would have been included, because they went a hell of a lot out of their way to say that you can still arrest a shoplifter. I mean,
yes,
if somebody
they did.
steals a $5 pack of cigarettes, you can still arrest them. But if they break into your home, you're not allowed to arrest them? Sorry, that just doesn't pass the smell test.
Why not?
Because it doesn't? That's why they call it the smell test?
Okay. Again, I'm not giving you my opinion on this.
I mean, you are. It's your opinion.
It's not. It's not my opinion. This is a black and white reading of the law.
Find a lawyer who agrees. Find a lawyer who says, yes, you've opened up homeowners to liability for defending their property with lethal force, the threat of lethal force as opposed to the use of lethal force.
No, that's not what I said. What I said is you cannot detain them. You cannot detain the intruder. You cannot detain the intruder until the police arrive.
And by all means, find somebody with a Juris Doctorate that agrees with your interpretation, and I'll come on air and say you were right and I was wrong.
Okay, that'll actually be fun. Let's push through. Let's push forward with this article.
Yeah, because we're coming up on time. You're right.
So where did I leave off? Oh, the second paragraph of 23 or some shit. It's not that bad, but we're yeah. Republicans signed on Monday or within their immediate knowledge. This bill makes Georgia the first state in the country to repeal its citizens arrest statute, Kemp said Monday before signing the measure. So Kemp, you're the frog licker. This makes Georgia the first state to repeal its citizens, and that's the direct quote. This bill makes Georgia the first state in the country to repeal its citizens arrest statute. Kemp, you're the guy that licked the frog first. You're the guy that looked at the little froggy that secretes a psychedelic poison and said, I wonder what happens if I put my tongue up its ass. Steve asks, was there no citizens arrest law before 1863? There was citizens arrest law before 1863. It was English common law. And the only thing that was codified here was that law is recognized, right? What the citizens arrest law in Georgia said basically is, look, we understand that as citizens you have the authority to arrest felons who are committing crimes in your immediate knowledge or as an immediate witness. But if you find yourself having to do that, then you need to hand them over to a peace officer within a reasonable amount of time. That's basically, as we've explained before on here, the authority of a citizen to arrest somebody. Basically, before this law neutered you as a citizen in the United States, your authority as a citizen to effect an arrest was identical to the authority of a police officer to effect an arrest, with the exception that you're not authorized to enforce traffic law, and you're not. Cameron, can you mute yourself? You're killing me, brother. You're not authorized to enforce traffic law, and you can't actually take them and put them in jail. You have to hand them over to a police officer for a criminal to be incarcerated, right? That was the case. This is going to get interesting. If this doesn't get challenged in court, then we have a very serious problem here in Georgia. So Kemp is the guy that looked at the frog and said, "I wonder what happens if I stick my tongue in his ass." Today we're replacing this Civil War era law ripe for abuse with language that balances the sacred right of self-defense of person and property with our shared responsibility to root out injustice and set our state on a better path forward. Yeah, go read the law. This is false. Kemp is saying things that are not covered in that law. It's not very long. It's only 9 pages. It's not like it's a hard read. It's not like it's real dense. So those who had pushed for the repeal said the law was approved in 1863 to round up escaped slaves and was later used to justify the lynching of African Americans. That's a lie. That's an outright lie. Okay, this is the same. These are the same assholes that are telling you that the only reason police exist is because we had slave patrols after the Civil War, or before the Civil War. That all police are just an outgrowth of the slave patrols. No. The sheriff, the shire reeve, the manager of the shire, the local authority. The sheriff's been around. I mean, that's a biblical reference. You can find the sheriff referenced in the Bible. That gets you 5,000 years of precedence. At least. That's the easiest direct reference. It actually goes back quite a bit further than that, but that's the easiest direct reference that you can look up yourselves. So it was just there to round up escaped slaves is a lie. It's a damn lie. Outcry over Arbery shooting also pushed lawmakers last year to pass a new hate crimes law in Georgia, more than 15 years after the state Supreme Court overturned an earlier law. Of course it was overturned. Hate crime. Murdering someone is murder. Assault and battering someone is assault and battery. These are crimes. Hate crime, this ridiculous notion of hate crimes, is that you should be punished. Hate crimes are explicitly racist. The point to a hate crime is if you happen to be a white criminal, you will be punished more severely than if you happen to be a black criminal or any other color. A hate crime, that they want to talk about systemic racism. You show me a black man who, after torturing and murdering, for example, 3 black teenagers who, after torturing and murdering a disabled white man who was wearing a MAGA hat on a live stream, if they're not charged with a hate crime, which, spoiler alert, they weren't. That's a thing that happened. They were not charged with a hate crime. Then it's very clear. The idea of hate crime is we want the law to punish white people more than anyone else. There's no other read of a hate crime. Any other read of hate crime legislation is an absolute lie. You show me where a gay man robbed a bank and he was charged with a hate crime because the bank was Christian owned. You show me that and I might back off this position a little bit. I dare you. Arbery, then 25, was fatally shot while running through a neighborhood near Brunswick on the Georgia coast in February 2020. That is a lie. This is not a misstatement. This is not a mistake. This is not weak information or an understatement. This is a lie. Now, there were a lot of bad memes out there where people were using the word jogger interchangeably with the N-word to make racist jokes and refer to all as joggers for the sake of discussing this narrative about the innocent black man who didn't do anything wrong and was just trying to go for a jog. Okay.
Sure he was.
For one, let me show you this is the picture that you've all seen of Ahmaud Arbery. Right? In a family, in an undated family photo. No. This is Ahmaud Arbery.
Keep your hand in your pocket.
I ain't got shit on me. What the fuck you fuck with me for?
I'll tell you why I'm here, man.
Why?
I'll tell you why I'm
Why?
here. Because this area is known for drug
This is
activity.
Ahmaud Arbery
Drug?
talking to
How
a
the
police
fuck
officer.
Drug when I work at Blue Beacon.
Back up.
Check my shit.
Back
boy.
up.
The fuck you talking about?
That is Ahmaud Arbery. That's the person we're talking about. That's Ahmaud Arbery. So, as we're talking about that, this narrative that he was just a jogger, that he was just out for a run. Oh, he was shot while he was running, is a lie. New evidence reveals Ahmaud Arbery claimed to be a jogger as an alibi for criminal activity. According to new released court documents, multiple eyewitness accounts, and police reports that were produced indicate Ahmaud Arbery's history of criminal activities, which included Arbery trespassing on property, stealing from stores, and then running away after being confronted. New evidence introduced to the criminal case against the father and son in Georgia accused of murdering Ahmaud Arbery show that Arbery had a history of claiming to be a jogger to cover for his criminal activities. And we have this from Andy No. Arbery was killed while he was running through the Satilla Shores neighborhood near Brunswick. Two men were sitting on their lawn when Arbery passed, and they pursued him in their truck. And even this article, which is talking about the incident, says the men proceeded to get out of their truck, and shoot Arbery, which resulted in his death. I'm not going to play the footage here because you've seen it. If you haven't, you should. Arbery, they did not get out of the truck and shoot Arbery. They got out of the truck and yelled at him, "Stop, stop, we've called the police, wait for the police to arrive." They were on the phone with 911 calling for the police to come and arrest this man for a felony, a witnessed felony, with video surveillance of the crime, asking him to, attempting to detain him. And at that point, he turned on them and assaulted Travis McMichael. As soon as he grabbed Travis McMichael's shotgun,
Yep.
he became an armed felon. As soon as he grabbed that shotgun, he was armed. And to Travis's everlasting credit, he stood there and let Arbery punch him in the face 3 or 4 times before the shotgun went off. And I say it like that. I say before the shotgun went off because we still don't know if Travis pulled the trigger or if Arbery yanked on the gun. Now, we do know that Arbery grabbed the gun and tried to pull it away from Travis. Right? I think there is a very reasonable case to be made here that what happened in the Arbery case, we've talked about this at length, so I won't beat the bush too much, but what happened in the Arbery case is the McMichaels, both of whom have law enforcement experience, so we're not even talking about just your regular average civilian, attempted to effect a lawful citizen's arrest on a repeat criminal with a history of violence, even to include violently resisting arrest and fighting with cops. A history of pretending to have just been jogging by to cover for having committed other crimes of theft and trespass. This criminal, in the midst of a lawful citizen's arrest, committed an assault against lawful citizens who were lawfully armed, and ended up getting himself killed when forcing an obviously armed citizen in lawful conduct to defend his own life from what had just become, through his aggressive grabbing of the shotgun in question, an armed assailant with a violent criminal history. And part of the argument made by the prosecution against the McMichaels has to do with the history that the McMichaels, as law enforcement, have with Arbery as a criminal, which means that they had foreknowledge of his being a violent criminal, which, in my opinion, this is my opinion, but in my opinion, which is not a legal opinion, not a professional legal opinion, but one that is bolstered by years of legitimate military intelligence training, which does include a great deal of law and its application. What happened there is those two men were even more justified than a regular citizen trying to effect an arrest, and had a greater perspective on the crime, because if it was just a couple of random citizens who didn't know Arbery at all, they would not have known beforehand that he had a tendency to violence. Arbery got Arbery killed. Now, popping back over to the article, Arbery's mother, "I think the signing of this bill will make people think before they take action into their own hands," said Cooper Jones, who witnessed Kemp sign the new law at the Georgia State Capitol in Atlanta. "Unfortunately, we had to lose my son in this manner. Had this bill been in place, I think it will protect young men as they are jogging down the street." Sweetheart.
Oh, shut the hell up.
Your son is a dead criminal because he was raised by a liar.
Yep. Be careful telling the truth about this. We don't want to get the Crowder ban.
I'm sorry. Your son is a dead criminal because you raised him, and you're a damn liar. If you were an honest human being, maybe you could have raised a productive, competent, decent citizen. But you're not. You're trash.
And the kind of trash who, by the way, is going to capitalize on the death of one of her children to become a somewhat relevant political figure. Wow. That's,
It stinks of Pelosi. "Thank you, George Floyd, for sacrificing your life for justice."
Oh my God.
And there's, so this isn't exactly beside the point or off the topic, but just I want y'all to understand something about the Arbery case. The Arbery case was such a clear-cut case of self-defense against an aggressive criminal in the attempted effectuation of a lawful citizen's arrest that the McMichaels were not arrested originally. Right now, they spun this whole narrative about corruption in backwoods Georgia and racism and everybody's in the Klan. Y'all, there were 5 or 6 prosecutors who recused themselves from this case. What happened was not that there was corruption there. What happened is the case was so clear cut that the first prosecutor that looked at it said, "No, there's no crime here. This was an obvious case of self-defense in a lawful citizen's arrest." And then an angry, violent mob intimidated that prosecutor into recusing himself. The next prosecutor comes in. The same mob goes after that prosecutor. This continues. They kept doing that. They kept attacking the prosecutors and scaring them into recusing themselves until they got a black female prosecutor who said, "Sure, I'll prosecute this." Think back for a moment to the Zimmerman case. On the scene, the police declined to arrest Zimmerman because it was such a clear-cut case of self-defense, right? And and then it was brought up at public media attention, and we got that ridiculous 911 call where they edited the call to make it sound like Zimmerman was the racist. And then when we got the whole call, we find out that Zimmerman didn't even mention race.
Until the 911 operator asked repeatedly,
like she badgered him into saying he might be black. And even then, Zimmerman didn't commit to he's a black male. He said, I don't know, he's got a hood on. He might be black. And then Zimmerman was forced to defend himself. Now, don't get it twisted. Zimmerman's trash. Zimmerman's a bad dude. But he was not wrong to defend himself.
Yeah, bad dudes have a right to defend their life as well, as long as they're not committing a crime.
And in that case, it was so clear-cut that the DA declined to prosecute. So Obama's wingman, Eric Holder, swooped in, got rid of that DA, and replaced him with a woman with political ambition who said, yeah, I'll prosecute him without evidence, no problem. Who needs evidence when you can pretend like this Cuban is actually white and turn it into a hate crime? Cameron, if you need to go, just go ahead and hang up, and I'll catch you later, brother.
All right.
So, and we get here. The father and son who pursued Arbery weren't arrested or charged until the state took over the case more than 2 months after the shooting. A prosecutor initially assigned to the case had cited Georgia's citizens arrest law to argue that the shooting was justified. Lee Merritt, the family attorney, said Arbery's relatives continue to want to see that prosecutor criminally charged. For what? I mean, for what? This doesn't even mention the other prosecutors, just the one. But the father and son who pursued Arbery weren't arrested or charged until the state took over the case more than 2 months after the shooting. No, the state took over the case because Brian Kemp is a coward, and he allowed himself, he basically chose to pay a ransom to terrorists. A Black Lives Matter mob threatened to riot and do all the things that we watched them do all summer last year. And Brian Kemp decided, you know what? In order to prevent these terrorists from burning down my state, I'm going to sacrifice 2 innocent men on the altar of ecumenical politics. Bring out the long knives. We've got some throats to cut. We're going to sacrifice these men to the black sun god. This was a clear case of intimidation being used to alter and affect judicial proceedings. And the end run result is that Governor Kemp and you have no defenders in the House of Representatives have decided to remove from you your right to interfere when a criminal is causing harm to people. Under the repeal bill, people who are mere bystanders or witnesses generally no longer have the right to detain people. Deadly force can't be used to detain someone unless it's in self-protection, protecting a home, or preventing a forcible felony. The changes retain Georgia's Stand Your Ground law, which says a person who is being threatened isn't required to retreat. So, according to this article, yes, you must use the deadly force. You cannot use it. You cannot attempt to detain them anymore. That's what this article's telling you. That's what the law says. Now, Cameron's not wrong. We should have a conversation with a lawyer about this. In fact, if I can, I'd like to have a conversation with Governor Kemp about this. I doubt that's going to happen, not because he's a coward and won't come on the show and debate me. That's not the claim I'm making. He's a very busy man. Trying to get the time with him would be difficult. His being a coward that caves to terrorists and the pressures of radical leftists and the toleration of crimes committed by even his own constituents against the interests of the American people notwithstanding. So, now, I think I'm going to go ahead and say that's my show for today. If, guys, hop in the comments as well under the video. Leave us a comment, ask some questions. Tell me I'm wrong. Now, don't just say you're wrong. I mean, you're welcome to do that. Elaborate. If you think I'm wrong on this, tell me how. Give me somewhere to go look. Give me somewhere to go look that we can find some hope, and I can see how wrong I was. I don't hold a great deal of hope out for you. And Steve says, so we all buy badge cams. You know what? It's going that way. It's going that direction. Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. It is Friday. Y'all be safe out there. Don't drive drink. Don't do nothing stupid. Don't fry bacon naked. And if you see someone committing a violent crime and murdering someone that you love, well, go ahead and plan on getting arrested and tried as a criminal if you try to stop your loved ones from being harmed by the criminals who are defended and supported by our governor, our House of Representatives, and the terrorist organization known as Black Lives Matter, who now run this country because now our policy is to negotiate with terrorists, to submit to them. That's the policy of the Biden White House. That's the policy of the Kemp governorship. That's what we've been reduced to. Cowardice. Y'all be safe out there.